name is Vern. Join the channel. We cover JW World News and we give you the rest of the story. Today, we're going to the Watchtower, and we have lives on Tuesday nights and Saturdays, and an excellent community. So join the channel and watch as we crash into the Watchtower. Here it is. I see it coming. Woo! Join us as we report in on the Watchtower. Welcome to JW Night Talk. So I see we have a few online, and we have a serious topic tonight. So hopefully I'll get a little bit of help from my good wife. She'll come on, and together we're going to cover this topic of familicide. So we didn't want to get into too much preamble. You know, I'm being watched now, remember. My good wife can come on and shut me down. So I'm going to get right into this topic, familicide. Now, when I first heard of the word familicide, it was just really an odd word to me. And so we looked it up here. Familicide, it comes from, well, it's a Latin. It's a combination of words, family and side. So familia is a word for family, and then side is a word for death or for killing. If we think of pesticide, those are just some of the fungicide, anything to do with a side, suicide, it all has to do with killings, side. So, here it is, denoting a person or substance that kills. So it could be like the pesticides. So in this case, it's a family. The family is doing the killing, and that's why it's a serious subject. We're getting into this topic with the National Library of Medicine, and this is new information. This paper was put out January 1st, 2023. It was actually released December 31st, but 2023, this is the year this paper has been released. And this paper, I'm going to pull it up on the screen here so we can present it. Where are we? Share the screen. There we go. There it is. So it's up on the screen here. I'll put it up full so you can see it. So it's from the National Library of Medicine. It's what happens to those who exit Jehovah's Witnesses, an investigation of the impact of shunning. So this is quite serious. Here we can go like this. My good wife wants to come on, and we can all look at this together. So we're going to look at this paper. I'm going to start reading it. And I did cover some of it. It's quite a long read, and I was looking at some of the articles that this has happened. So I'm not going to get into it. The paper is really well done. It's done by professionals. And I want to say this again, the National Library of Medicine. They are researching Jehovah's Witnesses, and all over the world we see all kinds of atrocities happening within kingdom halls. We see, if we were to recap just the last year here, we've seen what happened in Germany without mentioning it. It was a mess. And there's some research going on in Germany right now. That's going to be another video coming up on that, what's happening in Germany. And we see what's happening in Japan, where they're doing a study on the second generation Jehovah's Witnesses because of shunning. Now, this article here is all about shunning. So the whole world is coming in from different angles on this religion about its shunning policy. So let's delve into this, and let's get this article back up here and see what it has to say. It says shunning and ostracism have several impacts on individuals' psychological and social well-being. Members of Jehovah's Witnesses are subject to shunning when they do not comply with the stated doctrine or belief system. To investigate the effects of shunning, interviews with 10 former Jehovah's Witnesses ranging in the ages of 20 to 44 were conducted, 6 male, 6 white, 1 Native American, 1 black, 2 Latinx. And transcripts were analyzed with interpretive analysis for narrative themes. So there's some big words in here, but not too many. So they went through and they did this whole study on Jehovah's Witnesses. And it says problems are amplified in female former members due to heavy themes of sexism and patriarchal narratives pervasive in the Jehovah's Witness culture. Feelings of loneliness, loss of control, worthlessness are also common after leaving. Now, if you're in the audience, I put a little poll up to see how many of you are Jehovah's Witnesses. So if you have a chance, please take that poll and we'll reveal the information back to you guys, the audience, at the end. And it'd be interesting to see how many of you guys, if you were a Jehovah's Witness perhaps, or even studying, you leave, you get shunned. And especially, you're on these internet channels, if anybody ever found out, it would be really bad. Now, this is where some of these feelings come in, feelings of loneliness. For instance, if a person's waking up within the organization, let's say all your family members are still asleep, indoctrinated, that could be a real feeling of loneliness. And so we're going to go through, read some of this. It says, Lorraine Stewart was a model, a mother, and a wife. After leaving Jehovah's Witnesses and we're going to use the word JW, to enroll her sons in college, she was shunned by family and friends alike. In 2018, she shot and killed her husband and 3 children and herself in Keego Harbor, Michigan. And we have some of these articles. Some of these articles we could look up, and some of them are behind a paywall. So I have 2 articles out of here that we can look at. And one has a video. She left notes, messages detailing the pain shunning had caused her and the belief system that had influenced her actions. And this is another one. A woman blames sexual abuse, ostracism from Jehovah's Witnesses as reasons for killing and suicide. So this is not the only case of a former JW member committing familicide. The Miller family from South Carolina, the Longo family from Michigan, and the Bryant family from Oregon were all JW members who were subjected to this tragedy. Fraser, 2003, Glotsky, 2019. JW is a Christian sect that began in the United States in the late 1800s. And this article just kind of goes on to summarize the religion and how the religion works and the shunning works. And that's why I'm wondering if you guys are online, how many of you guys have taken the survey. I can just check it really quick here. I think I can. Yeah, and it doesn't affect the article by... yeah, okay. So 100% said yes so far. So I'm going to go back to the article. Where am I? Yeah, there we are. Just learning the StreamYard a little better, so it's just a matter of getting comfortable with it. So now it goes on to talk about the JW is a Christian sect that began in the United States in the late 1800s. The current version of the religion holds that a worldwide Armageddon will occur in the very near future, and that any non-believers alive at the time will be killed in an act of godly retribution. Now, does that sound correct? Like, that's how I was, I spent 30 years in it, believing that. And even getting out, you kind of believe it, for a while. And now it says members who choose to leave the religion due to moral or doctrinal objections are shunned by the community. Members who sin in the eyes of their congregation are shunned as well. And these beliefs have been cited as one underlying reason for the Keego Harbor familicide, as well as additional cases of suicide among former members. And based on these cases, JW beliefs may be internalized and have the potential to have a strong influence on the mental health of former members, even long after they leave the congregation. And that's what we find even on the XJW channel. We find within comments and that even after many years leaving, some of this stuff is really hard to get out of your head. And it goes on to say, existing research examines the quotidian life of members, or focuses on the contrast between life inside this very insular organization and life after adjustment to the outer world. Now, current research also examines the nature, the type of the pathological behavior by former members, as well as any reasons many remain in this high control organization, despite the toll on their mental health. And I know I was in it for years, and there was a lot of mental health, lots of mental health. So now, however, there are gaps in the research, especially regarding the exit point of former members. And this paper focuses on the adjustment period directly after a person leaves the JW and examines the connections between JW beliefs and the negative mental health outcomes of the excommunicated members. So this is what we need, folks. We need these kinds of health examinations to really delve into this from the professional point of view. And this information gets out. That's why we're making a video on it and putting it on our channel. So we welcome all of your comments, and comments do drive these channels. It's information like this that we want to get out there and reach as many people as we can. If you belong to a Twitter or a Facebook account, you think that this would be information that you think would benefit ones out there, please share it. And we understand the subscription end of it. Some of you can subscribe, some of you can't, and we're good with that. But I think there's some really important information here, because the way the religion is designed, it taught us, like many of us, people would leave the truth, the so-called truth. So people would leave and get disfellowshipped and quit coming and not even repenting. And there would be all kinds of chitter chatter in the congregation, like, boy, that guy's going to die at Armageddon, And then one day, that guy actually dies. Armageddon didn't come yet. The guy dies. And then the congregation's chitter-chattering and say, whoa, well, at least he has a chance for a resurrection. So you see, folks, this is what's causing this thinking inside the minds of a JW mind, is this particular thing. You're better off dead on this side of Armageddon, because for sure you're going to get resurrected. You're better off dead, especially if you didn't pull the trigger. And we're going to look at some JW articles, one JW article, but they're all saying that suicide's okay, like that you can get resurrected with suicide. All their articles are pointing in that direction. I don't know if they've always said that. Not every religion says that. But we're going to carry on. It says beliefs. We all know the JW beliefs, so we'll buzz through this a bit. Just talking about the 8 million people. There's members that have found the number of people identifying as JWs to be as high as 17.5 million. So there's also a mixed company, and we said that before. You'll have your 8.5 million members, and then at the memorial, there will be all these family members that really quit going. They faded away long ago, but they seem to go to the memorial every year. And people are curious. There's a special talk after the memorial, and people always chitter, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Maybe Armageddon's going to be announced. And you see, that's what keeps people coming back. When maybe Armageddon's going to be here. They say it's very near. It's any day now. And this is a kind of chitter chatter that goes on within the JW organization. Now, there's 17.5 million of these other people that still carry the belief. So after you leave the religion, you might go to the memorial once a year in the special talk. A lot of relatives and people like that do that. So that's where we get the extra people. So there's a lot of people with this thinking inside their minds. So JW subscribe to a framework of fundamentalism with strict obedience to doctrine required of all members, and very strict. And JWs believe in the ultimate authority of the Bible spreading their beliefs through evangelism and remaining separate from the world around them as God's only true religion. And this is a dangerous teaching too, because they teach that everything around is wicked, everything except the people in this religion. And it makes it a dangerous place to be. Now, according to the official JW website, JW.org, JWs view the Bible as the inspired word of God. Watchtower Bible and Tracts. They interpret predictions of the book of Revelation as meaning that governments and religions of the world will topple and Armageddon will arrive. And JW construe this prophecy and others within the Bible to mean that the end of this world is to come in the very near future. This end will involve the deaths of all those not actively worshiping the God figure of the JWs. Active JWs will be rewarded after this genocide with a renewed earth with paradisiac conditions. And over time, people who are deemed to be redeemable, who were not killed in the apocalypse, will be resurrected to be taught the ways of the JW. And they have articles, Watchtower articles, all the way through. I've looked at a few of them. We're going to pin this article in the description of this video. And it's very well written. And they link right to the website, the Jehovah's Witness website. So I was really happy to see this. So now they go on to say the only way to avoid being killed in this godly retribution is to follow the guidelines of the Bible in thought and actions as prescribed by the leaders of the Watchtower organization. And that's the 9 members of the governing body. They're like gods in the sense, because none of the Watchtower people can talk directly to God in a sense that they're going to be inspired to lead an organization or even lead their family properly. Like JWs don't even believe that a man who prays to God is going to be inspired to lead his family without all the many words in the Watchtower bound volumes. So the 9 members, they really have a control on the whole organization, on their minds. It's mind control. And to me, getting out as a person that was in this for 30 years and out for 10 or 12, till I finally woke up just not too long ago, to me, this is the biggest mind control cult on the planet. It's the biggest and the most dangerous because of how they grab your mind. I don't know of any other religion that does it to that degree. Now, the only way to avoid being killed in the godly retribution is to follow the guidelines of the Bible in thought and actions as prescribed by the leaders of the Watchtower organization. Now I'm going to turn this down. Now, this includes control over negative thoughts, as undesirable thoughts can cause an individual to fall out of favor with God. And there's a lot of mind control within the organization about your thinking. And if you think immoral things, well, you might as well have just done it because it's just as bad as thinking it. And they get into a lot of this mind control, even mind control of what you do in your bedroom with your mate. They want to control every facet of your life. If you're getting any medical procedures, they want the HLC. They have a special committee that meets you at the hospital, and they want to know everything about your procedure. They're very nosy, and they want to know especially if you take blood, because then they'll deal with you in a negative way. They'll disfellowship you. Now, the Watchtower organization, it says they in order to protect their thoughts, JWs are told to stop their thoughts and fill their mind with either prayer or specific scripture. And to maintain a rigor of control, members are used dictomus. I don't know how you say that word. Dichotomous thinking as a mental shortcut. So my good wife would have to get online and tell us what that means. But thoughts, actions, and beliefs are either all good or all bad. And these projections are also extended to people being either believers or not, and adding the judgment of good or evil based on this simplistic ideology. So if you studied or you were a Jehovah's Witness, you will know what's being said in this paper is right on. It's smack on. Now it goes on to say, A central portion of JW beliefs is the need to remain separate from the world outside of the JW community. And that's exactly it. Lehman Kelstedt and Corwin Schmidt, who research high control beliefs, describes this tenet of fundamentalism as separation orientation. And this is the idea that a believer should remain outside of the world events, avoid fellowship with non-believers, and be distinct from the culture around them. And in will, you follow Jehovah's loving guidance. An article in the Watchtower magazine published by the JWs. Believers are admonished to not follow after the crowd and not allow the ideas of non-believers to influence them in any way, including through visual and written media. And you see, that's why people don't even believe in the news, because the governing body tells them that the news media, everything out there is wicked. It's deceitful. That's what they say. So the JW view the world of non-believers as Satan's world and are warned to avoid them as we would a poison or a poisonous snake. And that's taken right from their Watchtower magazine. Now, this separationism extends not only to non-believer JWs that they may encounter in their daily lives, but also to members who have broken the rules or sinned, as well to those who were once members but have chosen to leave for religious or moral reasons. And those who fall into this category are shunned by all members of the religion, including their close friends and even family. And sins that could result in such shunning include, but are not limited to, fornication, adultery, homosexuality, greed, extortion, thievery, lying, drunkenness, reviling, spiritism, murder, idolatry, apostasy, and the causing of divisions in the congregation. Nothing in there about pedophilia. You can get away with that. But everything else is in there, even smoking. Smoking, they missed that one. You can get disfellowship for smoking a cigarette. Yeah. They'll talk to you, but if you're caught again, you're probably going to get publicly reproved. They'll do private reproof, right, the first time. And if they catch you again, then it's probably public. They might do an announcement. And if you get caught a third time, they probably disfellowship you. That's typically how it works. Members who fall into this category are considered disfellowshipped or not to be spoken to, contacted, or otherwise engaged by current JW. Amber Scora was a former member who was disfellowshipped for having doubts about the JWs. And a current member said to her, "Your eyes look like the eyes of a dead person," after she left. And this statement encapsulates the attitude of the disgust and separation that current members feel toward those who leave. They're conditioned to view those who leave the insular community as dead. And this comes from the internalizing of the beliefs that the end of the world is soon to come and that the world has nothing worthwhile to offer. So that's how they kind of sum it up. Is they're like this article, and this is from the health professionals. They're nailing it. Like they really did their research well. You'd think a Jehovah's Witness wrote this article, but not. These are professionals. So let's carry on. It probably you can't see that. I'll blow that up a little bigger there for you. Now there's a little bigger. JWs operate within a patriarchal. How do you say that, Shauna? How do you say patriarchal? No, patriarchal. Yeah. You know what I mean, right? Structure. So JWs operate within this structure. Men occupy all positions of power. So this is what this means, this word. That men occupy all the positions of power, from the head decision makers at the top to those who oversee study groups and lead prayer within the congregation. A 2021 Watchtower article entitled "The Head of a Woman is the Man," says Jehovah expects Christian husbands to care for spiritual, emotional, and material need for their family. See, the Bible doesn't actually say that. The Watchtower says that. So the Watchtower is as good as Jehovah saying it. And it really gets confusing reading this stuff, because you might be reading their Watchtower and you might be led to believe the Bible says some of this stuff. But most of the stuff in the Watchtower, the Bible doesn't say. Sometimes they just go ... and they quote a little bit of a scripture. And they're famous for that. They take poetry out of the Proverbs and Psalms, and they use that to base their doctrine about living on a paradise earth from some poem back in the Hebrew scriptures. But anyways, that's another discussion. So they operate within where the man occupies all the power, from the head decision makers at the top to those who oversee study groups and lead prayer within the congregations. In a 2021 Watchtower article titled "The Head of a Woman is the Man" says, Jehovah expects Christian husbands to care for spiritual, emotional, and material needs of their family. And in this context, husbands and fathers are responsible for their family's spiritual well-being and are therefore responsible for their survival in the apocalypse. I never thought about it like that, but yeah, that's really what they teach. That's exactly it. The man carries a lot of weight. Now, this places severe pressure on families to act and behave in a controlled manner while in view of other members. And so the one professor was explaining that men are required to openly act as the leaders of their households. And if they do not, the men will be seen as deficient by their fellow believers. And that's kind of the situation I was always in. Now, the documentary Disfellowshipped gives an example of the consequences of this structure. One former member interviewed in the documentary shared the suicide note of his brother, a father who was also a member of the JW, and he had been feeling doubts about the religion and not wanting to jeopardize his wife's or children's chances to survive the end of the world. So he took his own life. And that's what happens. There's a lot of pressure on people. Another core part of the JW worship is spreading their beliefs through evangelism, going door to door. JWs are well known for their door-to-door preaching activities. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society states that people are counted as Jehovah's Witnesses only those who preach to others and who report that activity, not those who merely identify them as witnesses, emphasizing the importance of the worship and practice. So yes, if you, they want you counting time, they call it time, and you actually officially hand it in on a slip of paper, you sign your name to it, and you put it into your service overseer, your book study conductor. And your book study conductor, they break the congregation into several little groups. And the book study conductor is actually somewhat responsible that everyone's spiritual health is okay. And how they determine your spiritual health is by your time. And the average time in Canada here was about 8 hours a month when I was in it back in 2012. So, and if you wanted to be exemplary, they wanted you putting about 15 hours a month. And the overseers, the circuit overseers would talk about this to the brothers, and they really monitor the time. So it's obviously a religion, it's not a free gift, like Jesus said. Now I'm doing some preamble, but this is a religion based on works. So that's how they gauge it. Now, these preaching activities demand an enormous amount of time and energy of the members. And as such, they curtail the time members would otherwise have to pursue careers, education, or enjoyable activities serving as behavioral control. So all your time is spent in the ministry. You're going to spend all your time with your kids in the ministry. Should be taking the kids to play ball, should be taking the kids to a hockey game. Should be up here in Canada, we should be enrolling our kids in hockey and allowing them to experience it. And I should on everyone, because hockey is really expensive. But, there's all kinds of things that we could have been doing, but we are always in the ministry. And our whole gauge of life was getting those 8 hours a month in. That was what our whole life was about. And maybe we could really work hard and auxiliary pioneer and be righteous. So you become a super righteous religion where everyone feels super righteous. and the whole world around us is wicked. And that's the kind of programming that we all have or have had in our minds. So it's behavioral control, right to your book study conductor monitoring your field service time each month. And if you don't count field service for 3 months, you become inactive. And then they come and meet with you. 2 brothers come and meet with you, and it's scary. And they start scaring you with Armageddon stuff. And you might not make it. So they want you to get out there. And this is what Jehovah wants. So yes, it's a very, very high control. And it goes on to say the level of shunning and the willingness of family and friends to participate in this practice is more readily understood when taken within the context of the control JWs are under on a regular basis. JWs are required to attend regular meetings, often twice a week or more, as well as participate in monthly preaching work. Those who do not participate in the preaching work are considered to be blood guilty due to the belief in Armageddon, and those who do not preach are seen as withholding life-saving information from their fellow humans. And this is quotes right from the Watchtowers. Now, according to these 2 researchers, the control watchtower goes beyond the worship practices of believers. And he notes that writings in the publications are worded as suggestions, but are actually regulated rules. And the locus of control resides not with the individual, but is fully within organizational oversight. Good point. And in a study on current JW, it was noted that they commonly referenced needing to set aside their current goals, needs, wants, and desires in order to pursue the preaching work and on other such worship activities. And that's exactly the way it is if you're a Jehovah's Witness. Independent thinking is discouraged, referred to as a trap and a snare, Watchtower 2006. And members are not permitted to attend other places of worship, attending higher education other than what is necessary for the job placement, read any material critical of the Watchtower organization, or communicate in any form with former members. You see, so you can't go on the internet, you can't look at these sites that we're on, you can't pursue your education. Let's say you want to know more about the Bible. You couldn't go on and listen to some rabbi because they demonize everything. So this prevents ideas from the outside world or doubts from specific members from entering the congregation. And according to Hassan, a therapist that works with former cult members and the founder of Freedom of Mind, an organization that helps cult victims and survivors. And I think I think this is Freedom from Religion. I think we have their site on our video descriptions on all of them. It's if you're getting out of religion and you're lost a bit, they have counselors. You can call into them, talk to them, email them, or communicate through their site. And they're really growing as a group. Just a side note, we're doing some research, and the fastest growing, I guess it's not a religion, but the fastest growing amount of spiritual people on earth are the ones leaving religion and now wanting to believe in something outside of religion. Because there's only 10% that are actually true atheists, 20%, but 10% of those still want to believe in some kind of a divine, not Jehovah, not Yahweh, nothing but some kind of a divine. Now, we're going to do another video coming up on that. It's such an interesting topic, so stick with us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and then you won't miss out on any of these videos. Now, we're going to carry on. It says we're talking about this level of information and mind control that is usually used by cults and high control organizations to retain their members. And within the JW belief system, members are taught to reject rational analysis. They're taught to reject critical thinking and doubt. And by creating a model of thought where critical thinking is a negative skill, and language is used as an additional control mechanism. So apostate, the word apostate is really a devilish word. And you become an apostate as soon as you use critical thinking and just ask a few questions. So that's how quick it happens. And we heard MJ in context, his story, and that's what happened. He just was asking a few questions, and the next thing he knew, they were going behind his back talking to all his relatives and his wife. And it's really bad, this control. Now, in the JW belief structure, thought is not differentiated from actions. Sinful thoughts are viewed as sinning, and consideration of a doubt is aligned with hating God. Thus, the control over thought and information translates into the control over action. Then the willingness to cut off a person who has sinned is a result of the control JWs are conditioned to relinquish. And as a current JW member stated in the previous study, how can I be someone's friend if he is an enemy of my best friend? You see the reasoning? How can I be someone's friend if he is an enemy of my best friend? So if your best friend is Jehovah, and if the whole world is enemies of Jehovah, well, then how can you be friends with anybody outside of the kingdom? And that's a really sad place to be, but that's where a lot of us have spent a lot of our life. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. We don't want everyone else doing the same thing. And we want to help all those that are coming out. They're PMO, they're asking questions and doing some research. So these are brand new studies. This is a study for 2023 on Jehovah's Witnesses. And it says the participant here is speaking of disfellowship person as an enemy of God for having made an error in relation to JW regulations. So you see the judging. You see, so folks, just so you know, you're not an enemy of God or of Christ. This is a religion that has built this shunning and judging in order to maintain members. So it becomes a cult. So ostracism is a form of heavy psychological pain that has been extensively studied. And they've determined that ostracism or shunning threatens 4 basic social needs: belonging, self-esteem, control, and meaningful existence. Those are some pretty serious basic needs. Let's say that again. Belonging, so belonging to something. Self-esteem, if you don't have self-esteem, you feel like shit. You feel like worthless. And that's the worst place to be. And they strip your self-esteem. Control, you have no control, because now you can't talk to anybody, your family, your friends. They've ripped your control away from you. And therefore, meaningful existence. Why am I even here? Why do I even exist? So you see, folks, how this shunning is serious and is being looked at by the health experts, the courts, the judges, and this is going to be looked at all over the earth. Norway shut this group down as a religion. They're not going to have no part of it because of shunning, among other things. But shunning is one of the main things. So shunning removes a person from their identified group, threatening belonging, and creates feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt, threatening self-esteem, and shunning keeps the group in control, and efficacy, I don't know if I said that right, is removed from the ostracized individual. So, self-worth is removed. You lose your self-worth. Now, if the individual's identity is intertwined with belonging in the group, shunning can disrupt their sense of empowerment and meaning in their life. And this is where the study's going to. So you see, shunning within the JW congregation structure, it's complex. It's not like the Mormons, it's not like the Catholics or any of these other religions. Hutterites can leave, and Mennonites, and they can come back. They're not shunned. They just say, welcome back, brother. That's what they do. Due to the high level of involvements expected from members in the separationists ideology prevalent in the community, members' social supports and families are within the JW circle. So when shunned, members lose their families, their friends, and their entire social network, usually without anything outside of the congregation to fall back on. So let's say you were raised in the organization, you're third generation, everyone's relatives, everyone's JW. You don't know anybody outside of it. Like for me, I at least had all these I was a convert at 18, so I had a lot of worldly relatives, and I had a fallback network. But for a lot of people, they don't have that. Now, this level of cumulative shunning has been shown to generate great psychological distress. Due to the negative light cast on higher education and people outside of the organization, believers are indoctrinated to fear the outside world. And this compacting of psychological distress lowers the level of resilience and leads to impaired emotional and social functioning. You can see people coming out of that organization. If you're shunned, you're in a very precarious situation. You believe that you still believe, let's say you're going back, you're trying to get reinstated, but you're shunned maybe for a couple of years. And maybe it's a second offense or something, and this happens. And people get really depressed outside of this organization when you're shunned because you still believe it. And so you're still trying to keep separate from everything out there. You don't even really trust the worldly doctors, so you try to get a JW doctor if you can. And that's the way it is in this religion. But there's not too many of educated doctors unless they're converts. Now, shunning within the Jehovah's Witness structure is complex. Now, we read that. So we finished that paragraph. So this causes a lot of problems once you get out. People are impaired emotionally and socially. And that's why I say we've talked about this on our last live with Joe and Fran, that I think a lot of people coming out may need some kind of extra help, some professional help, a place to go. And we feel Watchtower has to pay for this. I hope the legal battles go, and I hope something, and this is what we imagine. And remember, folks, our imagination is part of our manifestation. So we're on this side of the fence. We're working together. We're trying to help people. And that's a good thing to help people. So here is, we have these studies showing the problems, the detriments with suicide and depression because it's shunning. So here, now we're getting into this word familicide. It says familicide is a rare event with tragic consequences. Now, familicide is here defined as a murder of a spouse and at least one child. And familicide perpetrators have been studied extensively, and a profile of potential perpetrators have been developed. Comparing the structure and the belief system of the Jehovah's Witnesses with these profiles reveals the dangerous potential of the JW structure and why some members have severe mental health outcomes after leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses. So we see that. And, I think if you look around, if you're a Jehovah's Witness online or an ex-Jehovah's Witness, look around and be honest with yourself. Like, these are the studies that are coming out this year. And be sure that these studies are hitting the courts. The courts will now have studies so that they can know how to approach this religion when it comes to shunning. And it's really all over the world, this religion is getting attacked for its policy on disfellowshipping.
Right.
Now, people who commit familicide are often operating from a patriarchal, I don't know how you say that. Is my good wife there? Can you tell us?
Patriarchal.
How do you say that?
Patriarchal.
Patriarch? Yeah, it's patriarchal.
Patriarchal. Right
I don't
on.
know why they have the archal mindset. Now,
Just a mess
grammar's
around.
not my best point in life, but I'll struggle through this. And it's not a bad article to read, by the way. It says, within this structure, the head of the household is fully responsible for the family. And that's what they use the word patriarchal. Well, it's the headship policy that Jehovah's Witnesses have in their religion. That's what it's talking about. And this framework is reflected in their beliefs. The actions of the parental figure directly determine the survival of the entire family in the supposed apocalypse. So if the man's not doing his job, his whole family could die at Armageddon. So that's kind of the pressure that they put on the guy. So the belief, this whole headship idea, is also a determination of control over one's family. And when an individual's locus of control is external, attempts are made within the individual to manage that loss of self-control through self-harm, or attempts to control another individual to reestablish the sense of efficacy, so control. That's what that word efficacy means.
Efficacy.
Efficacy. I'm not saying that quite right.
Efficacy.
So control over your life, to have that control. So once you lose control in your life, you try to gain control maybe over your kids, or you start super controlling your kids because your husband's he's a mean bastard and he just over controls. So when he's gone, you're controlling your kids in the same way, maybe. I don't know. But this is some of the problems that they're finding in this religion when it comes to this, not where the husband and wife work as a team, but it's, oh no, guy's the head of the house, what he says goes. You see, that's kind of gone. That's yesterday's, that's old stuff. It's not around anymore. But in the religions such as the JW, the religion controls the incoming information, behaviors, emotions through dichotomous classifications and shunning. And I know I said that word dichotomous wrong. Sorry. Now, the flight to maintain a sense of control can lead to domination over family members and reliance on patriarch values, headship values. In 2014 literature review of familicide occurrences found that a key perpetrator motive was immorality, controlling fornication, adultery. So in Lauren Stewart's last video, she discusses the need to protect her family from the coming apocalypse. And due to the belief that those who die before the end of the world will be allowed to come back to life, she believed the only way to save her family from her sins, because she got disfellowshipped, right, was to kill them before the end. And she thought because, she got disfellowshipped and now, how can she lead her family through Armageddon? She's better to kill them all. And they'll have a better chance. So this fits the profile of familicide perpetrators who attempt to protect their families from an overwhelming feeling of loss through death. The only way Jehovah's Witnesses can really fix this problem is they got to change the whole religion. This whole Armageddon thing, where everything is wicked, has to go away. And if that can't go away, and if they want to maintain judgment seat in the world, the religion is going to crumble. It can't stand. And I don't know of other religions that are that controlling, but you tell us, you're online, maybe you have some experiences. But this is one of the highest, when they call it a religion, there's some obvious cults out there that we all know are obvious cults, but like this is the JW, the Mormons, the Seventh-day Adventists. I believe this is the highest control cult of those three. The Catholics, they can get away with anything. They can kind of do what they want. And that's the way it should be. You should be able to go to Sunday school and come home and make decisions based on what you learned. And as you learn more, your decisions change, and they do. But not in the JW religion. It doesn't work that way. Now we're getting into the method. The JW beliefs and the loss of community after shunning have a similar structure to the key motives and profiles of perpetrators of familicide. And familicide, however, is a rare occurrence. The structure of the JW religion and belief systems may have potentially poor psychological outcomes. And the purpose of the interviews that were conducted for this study was to determine the impact of these belief systems and the specific loss that shunning entails on former members. So the participants were recruited through XJW internet forums. So maybe some of you guys online were part of this study. Not sure. Now, it says the JW experience was first examined through news stories and first-person accounts and JW publications that are publicly available online. The search focused on the specific beliefs, policies regarding shunning, views of former members, and potential effects of those views. And due to the lack of literature on JW, jw.org, after they leave the religion, it was important to gather accounts from individuals themselves, because you will never go onto JW.org and find any of these accounts. And that's why you have to come onto these XJW channels and get the rest of the story. So this research was approved by Eastern Connecticut State University. And after IRB approval, a request for participants was posted on the XJW subreddit, as well as on several Facebook-based support forums. So that gives us a little history on this study. It says, due to the vulnerability of the subjects, the need to protect their identities, a written signed consent was obtained, and participants gave verbal consent after a review of the information sheet for the study. So, they went through all the hoops and loops on this study. They talk about the dates. April 5th, 2021 is when it looks like some of these interviews were going on. And the virtual interviews were recorded with participants. So, it goes on to talk about some of that. So the participants, the 10 participants, goes on and give the ages, where they live in the U.S., Southern U.S., Western U.S., UK, more than 5 years, less than 5 years. So you can look at that. The objective was to obtain and compare the personal lived experiences of former JWs, and the goal was to provide a detailed account of members' experiences of leaving the religion, as well as to look for commonalities between the experiences of ex-members and to inform future research direction concerning this high control group. So the results: shunning and communication control. So here's the report card. One sister said, "We don't want anything to do with worldly people. We don't want to give people an indication that we want to spend time with them, because we need to spend time with brothers and sisters." And in this level of the complete abandonment, it is so very shocking even to people who are very well adjusted, and witnesses are not well adjusted. Now, my dad has a zero contact with me. This is another person. My mother, on the other hand, in 3 years I've been out, I probably spoke to her like 4 times. The very first time I went to her place crying because I just want you guys to talk to me. And then my own mom was like, "Well, you know what you must do to come back." And that's how it is. People won't talk to you. As demonstrated in the above statements, shunning has a deep impact on former members. Current members are not to have communication with those who leave the religion. Once a person leaves the JW religion, they are regulated to the status of the outsider. Now, remember that case in Calgary here in Canada? Calgary, they went to the Supreme Court of Canada on shunning. And Ganan, the JW lawyer, he's a JW elder, I don't know if he's alive still, but he lied in that Supreme Court of Canada. Now, Supreme Court of Canada can now get this information done by a health study showing really the true story. And so hopefully papers like this will help our courts in figuring out really what's going on within this religion. Now, people who are not members of the religion are deemed selfish, cruel, manipulative, and insincere. So for you guys out there, and you're not part of the JW religion, that's how you are viewed. Terrible. It's terrible. And even when communication occurred between members and former members, it was emphasized to participants that further communication, attention, or attempts to reconnect would only be permitted on the condition of the participants returning to the religion. And you see, this is where they're lying in court. They don't tell all the story. They just tell parts of it. Now, for instance, Frank was told that he would always be welcome back to the family home if Frank started worshiping actively again. Other participants were sent text messages from current members and formerly identified as friends and participants, saying they could only reconnect, answer the phone, or communicate in any way if the participant, they could only reconnect, answer phone, or communicate in any way if the participants became active members of the religion again. Okay, I see. So we will answer your text messages, we will answer your phone calls, and we'll answer your emails only if you start coming back to the Kingdom Hall. You see, it's conditional, very conditional. And it says here, this conditional willingness to accept participants as sons, daughters, and friends is evidence of emotional manipulation, blackmail. The exploitative nature of the communications is a core piece of the shunning practice and contributes to poor connections with others after former members exit the JWs. So there's the report card. There's the report card, shunning and communication control. Not a good report card if you were a judge, an attorney that didn't know anything and you're dealing with a Jehovah's Witness case. So this is really some good studies. So information control, here's just what people are, how they feel. Here's a couple of people. I was scared to death to look at the opposing viewpoints. I thought I was going to be taken over by Satan. People feel that. The programming is strong. It was revealed that my wife was following an ex-witness on Instagram, and a witness who was concerned about our spiritual weakness went through over 400 accounts. And on the surface, the ex-witness account is not obvious. She was connected to the witnesses. So they were doing some research, and she found out she was an ex-witness and sent it to the elders. And since that point, my parents have talked to me 3 times, but everyone else has cut us off. Here's another one. I'm looking around. If these people knew what I was thinking, they would turn on me instantly. All these people who were smiling and happy to see me when I got here would hate me if they really knew what I was thinking. And that's a scary feeling because I felt I am not safe here after the first meeting they attended while questioning their faith. I stumbled upon the Reddit at work on my phone. Until the next morning, instead of going to the meeting, I was on between Reddit and my computer. I would cross-check everything. And at first I was like, no. And this cannot be possible. It cannot be that all of these things are lies. And then I was like, you know what these are like? A bunch of angry apostates, right? They're all angry and bitter and jealous apostates. I'm going to look at a topic, at one topic, just one. Diana, 23, disassociated. Psychology is banned. Any kind of advanced biology is banned. Any kind of advanced history is banned. Philosophy is like studying Satan. My dad was given a comment while we were talking about higher education in one of the publications, and he said, kids go to college and they learn about philosophy and they learn about psychology and sociology and they learn all of these lies. Cam, 23, disassociated. So these are all disassociated people. Ben, disassociated, 31. Helen, 40, disfellowshipped. Goes on to say information control and emotional control enforced by a religious organization creates a dynamic of fear and powerlessness. Fear is conditioned through required attendance at meetings of witnesses every week, requiring reading of publications and regular encouragement to keep the congregation clean through reporting and subsequent punishment of the sinful behavior. So you have everyone watching everyone. Everyone is cameras everywhere for the governing body. You have district overseers watching circuit overseers. You have circuit overseers watching elder bodies. You have elder bodies watching the heads of the houses and all the publisher records and stuff like that. So it's all about people watching. So fear is conditioned through the attendance at the meetings every week. It says fear conditioning prevented participants from being able to explore their faith with all the available information and making an informed decisions difficult. So yeah, it's very difficult because someone might be looking over your back. You can't share that information with anybody. It says the culture of informing on other members leads to distrusting other members of the society and the world for years to come. And that's what it does. It builds up a religion of distrust, and everyone wants to be super righteous. Now, participants overwhelmingly reported a lack of trust in people, organizations, the news, and institutions. Several participants linked their distrust directly to the culture of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they expressed the need to suppress their own thoughts, ideas, and doubts about the religion to maintain relationship with their parents, siblings, and children. So that's that on information control. Now they're studying Armageddon mentality. Now, these are some disassociated people, some comments here again. Now, here's what they say. If you think the world is going to end, you are not worried about long-term debt. I can just make minimum payments because the world isn't going to last another 5 years. Well, Anthony Morris was saying any day now, So I don't need a savings account when you're constantly being told this world, this system can't last 5 years. I don't need to pay this off because in 5 years, everything will be in ruins. Ben, 31, disassociated. Eric, I see things on the news and you're battling with your mind as to whether whether Jehovah's Witnesses have it correct. So you're always battling with emotions as to whether we've made the right decision. Eric, 44, disassociated. Here's another one. My mother has been a hardcore believer that the end is coming tomorrow, so she never saved money. Gina, 44, disfellowshipped. And I remember 7 years ago, another one of the governing body members talks and saying, if you're not doing all you can in the service, then you're considered blood guilty, and you'll not make it through Armageddon. So I've known since I was 5 years old that I would die during Armageddon. James, 27, disassociated. So it just goes on and on. I'm just going to put that there. I guess you can see it there okay. Okay, so now a common concern among participants was their lack of financial support after their exit from the religion. Now, participants reported that saving for the future or making material gains in the world is seen as heresy, as that would imply that one did not believe an Armageddon would occur. And that's true. And the culture of the JW religion discourages higher education, likening it to the devil. And members are also discouraged from seeking promotions or better job opportunities, and in part due to the belief that the end of the world will come soon. So compounding their lower earning potential, the JWs are discouraged from thinking about their future in the current world, as doing so would imply that they did not believe that the end would come soon, which would be heresy. Gina left the JW a few decades ago, but as the only member of her family with a college degree and a full-time lucrative career, she lives with and supports her parents and siblings. And while she lives on the same property as her believing family, she is not spoken to or communicated with unless it's related to the essential household matters. And she is in a state of full shunning from the congregation Gina had belonged to for decades as a member. This is a burden on Gina. And now with the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, her family has quit their jobs in anticipation of Armageddon. Wow, that's what was going on, eh? While the coronavirus was happening. They thought Armageddon was here. It really messes with people's mind, this whole belief in this Armageddon. Now, we're going on to say in the article, other participants expressed struggling with the belief that the world is ending. Several participants left the JW during the COVID-19 pandemic. And during the year in 2020, there were also widespread wildfires, political unrest, economic downturns, and members of the JWs are taught to look for these events as signs that Armageddon has arrived. I wonder, does the JW religion actually believe that Armageddon's here already, maybe? All these fires in Canada, all across Canada, they must be shitting their pants. And it's part of the El Nino. I guess next year is going to be hotter. So we'll have more. Now, participants, but it's not the first time. I'll just go back to that wildfires thing. Back in the year 553 or something, while the whole earth was dark and they couldn't do crops and all kinds of stuff. So this has happened before, where smoke from a volcano or something has covered our atmosphere. It's not like, was it Armageddon back then? Everyone that believed in the Bible probably thought it was, but it wasn't. So participants all reported feeling unprepared for life. This is the JWs, right? That's what they feel like coming out. And in a world that keeps spinning, participants who had not felt invested in the religion before leaving felt that they had been preparing for dying, and existing in a life that continues has required mental adjustments and steep learning curves. So Ben stated that because of his lengthy indoctrination around the short future of the exiting world, he learned to view the world through a short-sighted lens. Recovery from the membership required him to learn a set of goals and develop the ability to conceptualize a reality 10, 15, or 20 years into the future. So there's some therapy for a lot of people to getting out of this cult, that just to start thinking different, thinking that, you're going to be on this earth until the day you die. What are you waiting for? We're just going to wait around for Armageddon, or are we going to get busy and get involved? You see, if you study some of the other religions, and that's what my good wife and I are doing, we're actually looking at a religion through the eyes of a rabbi. And a rabbi, of course, is a person that's trained, that's scholared. And none of the Jehovah's Witnesses have that training, but yet they want to claim that they have some special divine insight. So it's interesting when we're watching the rabbi. Well, I'm going to take a break here coming up here in a bit. We've been on for an hour. We're going to finish this one off, but I'll put a little bit of the rabbi on. So anyways, let's just read this. Participants all reported feeling unprepared for life in a world that keeps spinning. They're not invested in anything. A lot of them, some of them had to take some therapy, and they had to learn to set goals 10, 15, 20 years into the future. And in addition to temporal adjustments, some participants reported dealing with shame both during and after their exit from the JW religion. And participants, Iris and James, reported that a strong tenet of the JW was evangelism, door-to-door work. And they were told that if they did not preach to everyone they met, they would be personally blood guilty for those people's lives in Armageddon. And they insinuate that. Their articles talk about that. And the circuit overseers talk about that every circuit overseer visit. And this led to feelings of shame when trying to interact with coworkers and others in the day-to-day life, while following social norms about not discussing religion. A lot of people don't want to talk about religion, so all these JWs go to work. If they have a job somewhere, if they're not janitors, and they go to work somewhere, they try to bring it up all the time. And most people do not want to talk about religion. Religion's a thing of the past. We're living in a world where people are leaving religions, and on their own, they are finding spirituality. So the next part is emotional regulation. Then we're going to have a discussion, shunning, shunning, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, strengths and limitations, future direction for research, conclusion. So there's another half hour of reading here. And I'm going to go back so I didn't lose my place. Shunning and communication control. So yeah, that's where we're at now. Strengths and limitations. Yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, so we're going to throw on a commercial here, a little bit of a break, give you guys someone else to listen to. Now, this is one of the things that we've been doing is I'm going to have to take this off the screen, stop that, and I'll present this. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah, there it is. You're doing. There's the one. Right. So this is one of our creators, and I think Ryan from Cultastic, you might know her, but they started another channel, and it's called The Adults Table. And they just started this channel. They have 77 subscribers, 7 videos. If you guys can at all support them with the subscribe, that would be great. We want to get these creators up to 1,000 subscribers, because once they get up there, then they can start maybe using some of this material to pay their internet bill. But anyways, Ryan was able to get a rabbi on and to get some real good insight into the Bible. And I thought this was great. We signed up and we watched the first show. It was good. And we went right back to the first one now, and we watched that one. It's called Bible Class 101, and we're gonna click on that one here. So
any Bible,
that
we're
on
talking
full
about
screen.
Tanakh, Old Testament, New Testament, whatever. Before you open any piece of biblical literature, you have to understand, and you should understand, the concepts of literature, because they are literature. And just like any other volumes of literature, there are categories. And so within the library of biblical canon are lots of different genres and lots of different categories. So imagine you walk into a library and you see there's comedy and fiction and nonfiction. And
so I just want to jump in here. I think you guys can hear me. I'll put it up so you can see me. Okay, I'm on the screen at the bottom there. So just to bring you up to speed on this, we're just in at the 10-minute mark. And this is he calls this 101, Rabbi Mike. I think his name's Mike. And he says, you know, the Bible, and I never thought of it this way. Like, we just watched this morning. And the Bible is like walking into a library, and there's different sections to the Bible. Some parts of the Bible are poetry, some are recipes. You know, they give exact dates or ingredients or whatever to whatever. And if you walk into a library, some of it's fiction, some of it's nonfiction, some of it's poetry, some of it's learn how to do it yourself, whatever. Some of it's religion. When we open the Bible, we don't see that. We're all led to believe, as Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we were led to believe that this is all the inspired word of God, that somehow God wrote all this stuff. Somehow God made it miraculously, brought this Bible into our hands somehow. And even it got through Tyndale and all those guys. It was pretty accurate. But then once it got into Russell's hands and Rutherford's hands and Fred Franz's hands, then it became very accurate to a Jehovah's Witness, because they were now inspired of Jehovah. So the Bible, we never really learned much in the Bible as a Jehovah's Witness. We learned how to recite a few scriptures. What I learned on this short little video is that the Rabbi Mike showing us that when you're reading poetry in the Bible, it's a poem. It's nothing more than a poem. And here the Jehovah's Witnesses are taking all these scriptures in the Old Testament and making it prophecy about the new system, about paradise on earth. And this is just poetry, most of this stuff. But anyways, I found this really enlightening. We were looking at some other rabbis. This guy talks to us in our language as ex-JWs, JWs. Ryan's on there coaching. I was really amazed at this program. I'm going to get off the screen here and just play it for a bit and take a break. Here it is.
Cooking and whatever the heck it is, right? When you open up a Bible, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You've got poetry, you've got prose, you've got historical fiction, you've got historical nonfiction, you've got prophetic, existentialism, you know, and then within each of those, you've got little bits of mini, you know, miniature genres and things like that. So this is one of those things that you start to, as you learn at the adults table, as an adult educator or adult student rather, to see what are the signals you when you open up a piece of literature. So the best examples that I can give you here on this plate, they're obviously extreme examples, but not really, right? If you open up a piece of literature and the first words are once upon a time, right? Forget the rest, right? There was a little girl who lived in a village in the forest, and she had red writing, whatever it is. But if you see once upon a time, you have been trained, you have been taught already to signal that signals a particular genre, right? And that genre is fairy tale, right? You would not.
Fantastical.
No one opens. Right. No one opens up, the Brothers Grimm, and says, history. That's obviously what this is. Because you have learned from a literary criticism point of view that when you see Once Upon a Time, what will follow will be a fairy tale, of a fictitious sort of moral story that's going to you don't focus on the facts of it, you don't focus on where it took place, you don't focus on were the people real. You know better than that, right? No one thinks that Little Red Riding Hood is a real character, and we found her archaeological evidence that she was there, and there's people arguing over whether it was a red coat or a green coat. That's ridiculous, right? Because we can recognize that kind of genre. Okay,
right.
When you open up certain genres within the Bible, it's the same thing. You should know, what are the questions I should be asking? What are the things I should be paying attention to? And so many people, when they open the Bible and they read a passage, they've missed the point completely. Like you would if you were to say once upon a time, and someone asks, wait a minute, did this really happen? You're like, excuse me, no, this is
hello.
Hello. But
don't you know what once upon a time means?
Right. Obviously, from a educator point of view, I would say, well, actually, no. Once upon a time is what's called a literary trope, and it's used in fairy tale genres. And it signals to you that it actually means that what's going to happen is not true, right? And you actually know that. Most people know that. People don't know how to see the literary tropes in the Bible, and that's what we're going to help teach you.
No,
So,
I would never even thought I needed to do that.
Right. Why would you?
Again, because everything's sanitized.
That's right. It's second nature to you, right? This other one here, right? Bring a large pot of lightly salted water to a boil, add pasta, drain, right? What genre of literature is this? You don't need to go
chefery.
Right. You don't need to go to graduate school to identify this genre of literature, right?
Right.
Which means that if you read this, you are to take it literally as step by step a way to create something. You should not ask, wait a minute, whose pot? What color pot? What meaning can we derive from the use of the medium skillet, my friends?
When you start to break it down like that, it all starts to make sense.
Right. But what kind of pasta, Rabbi? What kind of pasta? Because the shell evokes this, while rigatoni feels that. Like, you've missed the point of the recipe. Okay? Just read the recipe. And the truth is, as sort of laughable and absurd as these examples are, when you put biblical literalists in a room with biblical scholars, this is what it sounds like when they say, this actually happened, or this is what it means, or whatever. And you're like, you've missed the entire part. You missed the entire point of this. Nobody cares about that. The author didn't care about it. You're asking the wrong questions. So keep that in mind, that there are genres, there are literary tropes. You've just missed, you've been missing them.
And you know
because
what?
you did not have a proper teacher.
And I was thinking too, just because of the questions you asked there about well, what can we derive from the use of a medium skillet? That kind of sounds like a silly question, but it's really not, because, well, I know in a medium skillet, I'm not going to put a big 16-pound turkey in there. I'm going to use
Right.
like, there's so many little things that make sense now when you break that down. Like I'm using the proper tool. It's
Right.
because, again, I'm taking it literal. I'm going to use what makes sense. And that's because I understand what genre it is. So now it
Right.
becomes clear what I'm to do. I like this.
100%.
Thank you. This is good stuff.
100%. So now I'm gonna blow your mind a little bit more. Imagine 1,000 years from now, you're reading this recipe, right? Right on.
Mhm.
1,000 years from now, you're reading this recipe. What does medium mean to them versus a medium skillet to us? Do you think that a medium skillet in the year 3033 or 23 is the same medium? We know medium skillet is in 23, right?
Yeah.
But in order for them to follow the recipe, they need to know what our medium skillet is, not their medium skillet, right? Maybe
It
they
makes
have a
a world of
kind
difference.
oil. Right, exactly. Maybe, they've never heard of anchovies, or garlic means it looks like something totally different, right? They need to get into the mind of 21st century cooking in order to do this recipe. And like we said, it seems sort of absurd, but the truth is, when you read,
It's not
right,
now.
you cannot
Yeah.
put yourself in that historical distance, or you will end up cooking a huge amount of garlic and anchovies.
Okay, I'm back.
Right.
Thanks, guys. I'll put myself back up here. And okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. That's the adults table. I'll put a link to that also in the video. And if you haven't yet seen that channel, you might want to take a look at it. I'm very interested in watching more of the videos. I'm going to watch it because they have one talking about El, Jehovah, Yahweh. We watched the last one, and they were talking about Yahweh had a brother and siblings, as gods, and their dad was El. He was the top god. This is a different way of looking at the Bible. And when we look at the Bible, Rabbi Mike will show us how the Bible's been stitched together. And this is what I was thinking. I've been thinking this for a while, because we go to the Bible and we see how Jehovah is, and the Jews' God, Jehovah, Yahweh. And then Jesus came, and Jesus never ever used Jehovah. You'd think if Jehovah was the most important thing, like Jehovah's Witnesses say it is, that Jesus would have used that name. Never, not once. He used the name El. He went to the big God, Jehovah's dad. And Jesus wasn't into the Jehovah thing, the Yahweh thing. He wasn't into it. He worshipped El, different God. So this is what you'll learn on this channel. This is it really opens your mind up to a lot bigger things. I'm ready for it. I want to learn more, and I've been searching for this. So thanks a lot, Ryan, for doing that. And we're going to get back to our article here. Where am I here? I'll get back to the other article we were in. There it is. What happens to those that exit Jehovah's Witnesses? So now we're looking at strengths and limitations. The current study contributes to the current body of literature, providing in-depth accounts of former Jehovah's Witnesses and their personal experiences. Past research has examined individuals as aspects of the exit experience, whereas the current studies examines this experience through the influences of the doctrinal ideology and the adjustments to the non-JW life. So they're just talking about their study research. I'm not going to read it all. I don't think we have time. A future direction for the research. The current study should be replicated with a larger sample size. So here's an opportunity. You guys may be able to get involved. We could get involved online maybe. And could include participants from multiple nationalities to improve generalizability to more members of of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Additionally, this study recruited from 2 social media sites, and further research could use alternative recruitment methods to achieve a group with less homogeneous views on their exit from the religion. So it sounds like this is just the start of it, folks. They're saying that additionally, eschatological beliefs or beliefs that the world will end are not unique to the JWs. Future research could examine similarities between ex-JW members and members of other similar high control groups with doomsday prophecies, such as Latter-day Saints, Scientology, Seventh-day Adventists, and Christadelphians. Christadelphians. It's almost like Philadelphia. Christadelphians.
Yes.
Christadelphians. There you go. So this would provide more generalizability regarding the impacts of shunning on ex-members. Expanding the research on this topic would offer a greater understanding of religious psychology. You know what I see happening? I see the world looking at religion as yesterday and religion going away. So we could label it as Babylon falling and all of that kind of stuff, but more and more people are just getting outside of religion. There's more information now. People are looking at the Bible as stories, myths, not as the word of the divine word, because men wrote it. Men stitched the book together to control people, to make money. Jesus never said to write anything down because his way was so simple. He called it the way, the life, to love. That's Jesus. It was easy, and he was real. And then when we look at the Gnostic Jesus, well, we get into a whole different world, right? He went to India. Maybe he didn't die. So there's a lot of research, I think, in the XJW community. And I think we're going to find more and more on these articles like Familicide. So here's the conclusion of this article. The membership of the JWs is an understudied population. Yeah. So there's going to be more studies on JWs. And given its reported 8 million members around the globe, further examination of the effects of policies and beliefs on individuals would be beneficial. As of now, the only large-scale source of support reported by is a web page hosted on Reddit, as discussed by participants in this study. So yeah, and there's more, like there's a lot of websites, Void JW, JW Facts on the religion. So there's actually quite a library now. The combination of the threat of Armageddon, the policy of shunning, those who disobey Watchtower policy, and the inequality between men and women in the religion leads to difficulty coping after leaving the religion. And the minimal level of support available to former members leads to difficulty forming affirming and supportive relationships, low financial security, and emotional maladjustment. When combined, these difficulties match the profile for familicide perpetrators and support the hypotheses that XJWs struggle significantly after leaving the religion. And creating support services for former members of the high control organization, such as the basic financial courses, awareness of manipulation tactics used by such groups, would improve the lives of former members significantly and potentially prevent further familicides by former members. And folks, this is really an important part, creating, and I'm glad they have this in the study here, creating a support service for former members of the high control organization. You know, getting to the basic financial courses. Look at that poor guy that came out of Warwick Pimo. The guy was lost. He didn't know financially. Like, what am I going to do? Like, you're in that Bethel for 10, 20, 30 years. Everything's done for you, right down to your laundry. What do you do when you get out? You're kicked out. You woke up in Bethel. You're kicked out. I think there has to be something. And I think this study is going to push for it. And that's why, again, I say, folks, we have to imagine Watchtower is going to pay for all of this. They have to pay for it. They caused it. They're the guilty ones. And we have to create support services for the former members. And that's what we're working on. We're talking about that. Joe and Fran were on the other night. We were talking about this. Barbara Anderson, she's online dealing with all of these people. So I think as our community grows, we push for this. We look for it. We look for opportunities to help. And these studies we can use, and we're going to put a link to it in the descriptions, but you can use these studies. We can use them now. These studies are there for us to use when we need them. They give us that professional support. That what we're saying is actually true. No one believes us. We say this stuff online, but we're not professionals. So once you have the professionals, the healthcare doing this and nailing it, they've nailed this study. Now it says, given the similarities between the outcomes of shunning combined with the reported patriarchal nature of the group and the vulnerability of those who leave a high control religion, former JW populations fit the profile for familicide perpetrators and may be at high risk for suicide. So the seriousness of these outcomes requires a more in-depth qualitative and quantitative analysis to further understand the implications of leaving a high control organization. So it goes on to give all the footnotes and so forth. So that's the end of the study. Now, I don't want to end there yet. I want to show you, these articles are in there. This one's The Family Killers. This is from the Los Angeles Times. That's back in 2003. I'm not going to read this one. There's one with the video, though. It's the next one. And I think I'm going to have to release this because you can't see what I'm doing here. And I have to present this. Okay, woman blamed. Here it is. Okay. This is the article. Now, ex-Jehovah's Witness turned model, 45, left a video and suicide note blaming childhood sex abuse and exclusion from her religion for killing her husband and children. Let me just read the short of it. Lauren Stewart, they referred to this in their article. Lauren Stewart, Michigan. She's been researching suicide methods on YouTube. And then Harbor, 45, shared a video calling herself broken. And she left a note on her dinner table. So it talks about this. Lauren Stewart, 45, shot and killed her husband. Daniel, 47, their children. Stephen, 27. Bethany, 24. These are adults. These are people that are adults that weren't her children, but they weren't little kids. And then she turned a gun on herself. And then she made a video describing her path of destruction and dealing with sex abuse at the expense of family members that pushed her towards suicide. So there is a video here. Is this it? Right here, I think. And these are just some of the pictures here. We'll go back to this video in a second. But these are all the pictures in this article. This is her, the model. I'm assuming this is her husband. They found him in the basement. A gunshot wound to the head. His right hand was in the front pocket, suggesting that he tried to react when he was shot. And this is Lauren Stewart. She's been researching suicide methods on YouTube. Now we're going to go back to this video, and it's at the Kingdom Hall. So I hope the volume comes up here.
Excuse me, everyone. My name is Joyce Taylor. Please excuse the intrusion. I'll only be a moment. No, you cannot touch me. You cannot touch me. 2 days ago. 2 days ago. You're away for a minute. No. 2 days ago. You can call the police. Please do. 2 days ago, Daniel Noah Stewart died. 4 people died as a result of your shunning process. No. 5 years ago, all of you pulled your support from this small family. From this small family.
Please get down.
And you all, do not touch me. Do not touch me.
Please get down.
The only support they ever had was you people. And you turned them away and you shunned them. For what? Because they wanted to raise their children as they saw fit. Jesus said,
the police are
you
on their way.
said that you did this to Lisa Ryan. You did it to me. Let that sink in. Do any of you realize just how fragile human psyche is? I hope in your prayers today, you will find that in your heart, ask forgiveness for what you guys did. This is terrible.
We need to be careful getting there.
Do not touch me.
Before this incident, the person that I always knew was really.
Okay, so that's that article, pretty much. Did you notice that as she got into the hall there, she was in the Kingdom Hall. Did you notice she stood on the chairs and all those elders got around her and they said the police have been called? They were like a broken record. They were like a recording. It was just like they're running a program. The elders are on their way. I think they have a method of reciting certain things. The police are on their way, and they all said it together so that her voice couldn't be heard. She was just trying to give her message about the pedophiles and the abuse at these Kingdom Halls. But this is how they do it at these Kingdom Halls. I thought that was worth watching, and just to let people know that if you want to go to the Kingdom Hall, that's what they do. They'll circle you if you go to an assembly, and they'll just jumble a bunch of crap, and your voice won't get out. And like that lady, they try to grab you. So if they like, she screamed at him, "You let me go." So yeah, you don't have a voice. This is a cult, so it's probably, I'm not going to give any recommendations how to deal with it. Everyone has to figure that out. But anyways, folks, I think that brings our program to an end. I'm going to bring my good wife on and see. Did you have anything you wanted to say, hon?
I think that you covered everything very well, and we will put the link to that study in the description under the video.
Yeah, so that's great. I'm just turning my speaker up so I can hear you this time. Sorry about that. I had my volume down, I guess, through the show. Now, I was going to look at something here, suicide. How is suicide a crime? This is a question. Suicide is a crime in some parts of the world. However, while suicide has been decriminalized in many Western countries, the act is stigmatized and discouraged. In other contexts, suicide could be utilized as an extreme expression of liberty, as exemplified by its usage as an expression of devout dissent toward perceived tyranny or injustice, which occurred occasionally in cultures such as ancient Rome, medieval Japan, or today's Tibet Autonomous Region. So that's suicide. Here in Canada, it says here, I'm just opening the criminal code here, and it says everyone is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term of not more than 14 years who, whether suicide ensues or not, counsels a person to die by suicide, or abets a person in dying by suicide, or aids a person to die by suicide. So It's pretty serious here in Canada.
Yes, there's been some cases of schoolgirl in Vancouver, I believe, committed suicide, and they actually did charge some of the other, not friends, but some of her schoolmates, because they bullied her and pressured her and told her that that was really her only option. So yeah, they were culpable.
And 96% of her audience was either Jehovah's Witness, ex-Jehovah's Witness, or studied, had some affiliation. So there's only 4% of the audience then. So this is very applicable information for the audience. Suicides. Now I'm going to open this up. I'll open the screen up. Share the screen. And this is suicides from the Jehovah's Witness literature. This is on JW.org. The Awake 90, the Bible's viewpoint, suicides, a resurrection. And they're saying the tragic news of a suicide does not close the chapter in the lives of relatives and friends. And they go on to talk about, it's actually not a bad article on suicide. You know, they don't want to be the judge, right? Because they probably realize some of this. Well, this is an old article, 90, so this is kind of their viewpoint going way back. And they talk about the laws on suicide, a merciful opportunity. Stunned friends of a suicide may thus take comfort in knowing that Jehovah has shown mercy to those fearing him, for he himself knows the formation of us, remembering that we are from dust. And only God can fully understand the role of mental sickness, extreme stress, even genetic defects in a suicidal crisis. And it's not a lifetime. I pumped in Familicide. They don't have that on the JW site, but they do talk about suicide. Here's the question, but who can say whether one driven to suicide might have had a change of heart? Something could change. So they're saying, granted, one who takes his own life deprives himself of the opportunity to repent of his self-murder. So you can repent of murder and learn the Bible and I guess be approved, right? So, but when you self-suicide, you can't. That's what they're saying. They're also saying, thus Jehovah, having paid a ransom in exchange for many, is within his right to extend mercy even to some self-murderers by resurrecting them and giving them the precious opportunity to repent and turn to God by doing works that befit repentance. So there could be a dangerous statement if people figure that they'll get a resurrection for self-suicide. It could almost promote it. I don't know if I'd want to print this stuff without having I think it's safer to have these professionals do it. From the health. What was that article that we were looking at here? It was from the National Library of Medicine. It was the National Center for Biotechnology Information, NIH. So it's more of a credible place. It's government run. I don't know. The Watchtower, I think, has to be careful with some of the stuff they print. Life is a gift from God. They say love strengthens our recognition in that suicide, though evading one's own burdens, only heaps more problems on loved ones. And that's all true. Like, it wasn't a bad article. I think suicide's a hard thing to write about. What does the Bible say? Well, I don't think the Bible says a whole lot about it, to be quite honest. So we have to go with the country. It's wrong. I wouldn't encourage it at all. I wouldn't say that it's right at all. And who am I to know how God views any of this stuff? I think we want to put up as many roadblocks to suicide as we can. We want to help people to get out, get help, get professional help. And I agree with that article where most Jehovah's Witnesses need professional help. They need some kind of a program. Like we think of Warwick Pimo. He came out of there and he had nothing. He was trying to get some stuff out, and then he got kicked out. And then they put the fear of God into him by threatening him with lawyers and suing him and all kinds of things. So this is Watchtower for you. And we're going to work together as a community. We're going to keep pulling more of this information out and helping more people as they wake up. So I hope you guys enjoyed the program, and this brings the program to an end. I didn't even really look on the comments too hard today. We have XJW MJ's on there, and he says therapy. We can show some of these comments. He says therapy is very helpful if anyone needs it or knows someone. So, so many of us probably know that. Lorazim. It's tempting to go back to the basics and becoming a Jew, but scriptures say, I'm not interested in your burnt offerings or sacrifice. Your hands are blood-filled and your thoughts are evil. Thanks for that comment. And what else do we have? MJ was sharing with everyone. It's crazy how all my life when going door to door, I would tell people that it was okay for them to use their Bible because all Bibles are the same. Oh, how gullible I was. You and me both. We all have done that. So yeah, we had a good conversation. Sorry I didn't have a chance to go through the comments like I would normally like to, but it was quite a deep topic tonight. And so I appreciate my good wife being on to help me with some of those hard words. And if you guys have any topics that you want us to cover, for sure, cover it. We have some interesting ones coming up. We're going to be talking about God. How many people believe in God? What kind of God? What about, should we be praying to Jehovah still? Should we be praying to Yahweh? If we want to be spiritual, what do we do? So we're going to talk about this, probably do some private videos on that. It might not be a live, and we're always looking for people that want to come on the live. And maybe they're starting a new channel out. They want to get some advertising. Not that we're a big channel or anything, but if you're just starting out, it's a way of getting you out there. And when I think of Ryan's channel, the adult table, well, you should be an adult. I said, you think I'm old enough to be in there? And they laughed. And you should be an adult. It's a pretty, they talk about everything. And the Bible talks a lot about sex. I didn't think it talked that much about sex, and it talks a lot about sex. And they bring it up in a really nonchalant way, a really nice way of doing it. So we appreciate that. So Jay has a comment here. He says, in my opinion, the paradise on earth teaching is the most dangerous teaching because JWs wouldn't do most of what they do without that teaching. And you're right. You're absolutely right. It's not a good teaching. All these teachings aren't good. I think it's important to do what we can, live in reality, and live our day with love. Like really get out there and try to do a few things. Or if we can't get out there and we're maybe in our home when we can't do a lot, we're online a lot. If you're online right now, we can put our comments with love. We can tell the creators what we really liked about that video. And we can also be honest with them. They want honesty. Creators want honesty too, because that's how we make better videos, by being honest. So anyways, I'm gonna close the program down for the day, and thank you again, everyone, for being online. We appreciate having you, and remember, Be Free is coming up, so we're going to be advertising a little bit more on Be Free. We did a couple of videos where we tried to get all the creators. We got a whole list of more creators. I didn't realize how big this XJW community is getting. I think it's great. I just think it's great that everyone's coming online, sharing stories. And basically, everyone wants the same thing. They want to see the Watchtower change or be shut down. They want to see some justice. And they want to see the CSA stuff. They want this gone. The shunning, it's a big one. That one has to go away. And if it can't, the religion has to go away. It's just not right. So anyways, folks, that's what we're going to be doing over the next bit here. Is we're going to be, I don't know how to take those down. Oh yeah, there it is. So we're going to be advertising Be Free. Now, for any of you out there that are going to be free, we want to host a live for the whole time, the whole Be Free. I think it's 5 hours, and it is on Tuesday, but we want to do a live marathon. And we need a couple of you guys out there with phones, because your phone batteries go dead. And we can get you on the link onto this channel. We just send you a link. So easy. You just click the link and you're on our channel, and you can show your phone up and show what's happening at the protest. So if you're in a position to do that, email my good wife, and we'd certainly like to get that set up before the day of the protest. So I think that's it. Yeah, here we are. So that's why we're going to run this show one more time for a conclusion. It's kind of a little bit of a be-free promotion. So thanks again, folks. And until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.